If you like Final Fantasy, opening packs, or playing Commander, you might want to stick around because we are doing a deep dive to find out if Final Fantasy booster boxes are worth buying for Commander players.
I'm Mia, and I play with the cards that I buy.
I'm BZ. Sometimes I buy packs and I just crack them open. We're the Nitpicking Nerds, sponsored by Card Kingdom, because that's the place we go to buy all of our boosties. If you want to crack packs, go buy booster box Final Fantasy on Card Kingdom, get yourself some free shipping, have it sent to you in a safe, timely manner, and you don't have to worry about anything.
Singles, sealed, product, everything you could want, even merch. Go to Card Kingdom, use our link, tell them we sent you. We would love you. They love us. We love you. It's a whole triangle. We're also sponsored by Dragon Shield, best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
If you use the code
Nerds.
and check out, you can save 5% of your Roma tax dollars on your entire order, which includes amber sleeves. Does that mean the cat? Does that mean the color? It means both, if that's what you want.
And we have a Patreon if you want to support our nonsense, like the 3.5-hour video we just made. That stuff's only possible with Patreon, so go give us a little bit of a tip. We'll give you something cool in exchange, and then everybody's happy. So today, we are talking about buying booster boxes, which we don't normally do on the channel. We have some notes before we begin. If you want specific cards, if you are coming at Final Fantasy and you're really excited and you want a Sephiroth, buy singles. Buy the Sephiroth. That is your ultimate goal. Get there the fastest way possible. That will lead you to avoid spending unnecessary money. But this video is not about expected value. It's about quality of cards in this set for us Commander players, which I think is the primary reason people buy booster packs. We are asking, will I be able to use these cards in my decks instead of, will I make my money back? Which I think is kind of a silly question. Magic is not only an investment. I am not only buying a booster box hoping to somehow turn a profit. I think that's like almost none of the decision I make.
That's borderline gambling, and we're here to play with our game pieces. If you want to build a collection out of your packs, if you want to just make like a random 100 card booster deck from the packs you crack, if you just love cracking packs and you want to actually utilize these cards later, this is the guide for you, because we're going to show you how many of these cards can actually be used in your Commander decks at large.
So yeah, what can you expect as a Commander player hoping to play Commander with these cards from a Final Fantasy booster box?
So let's start with base stats first of all. A Final Fantasy Play booster box is $180 at Card Kingdom, which is our beautiful vendor. We love you. We're going to be breaking it down by each rarity to let you know what percentage of cards could be useful for Commander. Sea level or higher. We're going to be a little bit kind about this, but these are all very playable cards that we would play in all of our decks. Maybe a little bit niche, but we're not that mad at that.
And these are cards in the 99, so we're not necessarily talking about niche legendary creatures that can only be a commander of like dog deck. That's not what we're talking about. These are generally broadly playable or fit into one archetype that is like kind of common and well known. So we're going to start out with the lowest rarity, the commons. These are the cards you're going to see the most of when you crack a booster pack. So I want the best numbers from the commons. And I guess you'll see as we go through, we're going to give you all the stats for the Final Fantasy booster boxes, but we also have booster boxes from other recent standard sets to compare that to, so we can contextualize everything we're saying. So stick around, because first is the commons. There are 90 commons in this set that are not lands, like basic lands. We don't count those. There are 28 of them that we think are solidly Commander playable. That gives us 31.1% of the commons that are usable in Commander, that are good, useful. And we're going to talk about some of our favorites. I like Weapons Vendor. It's the cantrip that makes your equipment attach for cheaper. Kind of a sick budget card, like overall. I think some equipment decks are going to be happy with it. Rook Turret, really solid artifact payoff. Any deck with a decent amount of artifacts could use a Rook Turret. It does filter your cards pretty well. Hacked Eyes is like the classic burglar rats variant.
Discarding cards.
Yeah, if you can reanimate it, flicker it, sacrifice it, any of that is a very, very solid card. I like Mysidian Elder, and that's like this whole red-black archetype in here is the red-black wizards, where it just like makes 0/1 wizards that ping people.
I'm such a sucker for towns. You know, we love dual lanes. We hate playing basics, and this cycle of 12 towns really helps us get there with colors.
Yeah, there's also like Town Greeter. That's almost a better version of Satyr Wayfinder, and Satyr Wayfinder is amazing. I have been surprised that we haven't gotten another take on it that was as close enough, that milled that many cards. And I'm super happy to have Town Greeter. That's just a great card. That's going in decks even aside from this booster box opening. But we also have Blitzball. pretty solid mana rock, a common. I'll take it. You know, when I'm trying to open this box and I'm seeing how much of a deck I can get together out of it, Blitzball's going in.
Blitzball is so prevalent in all these sets, and we couldn't figure out whether it was like Quidditch or soccer, so I'm very happy that it's a very playable common. But we're going to move on to the uncommons, the second most common slot that you'll find. Out of 110 uncommons, there are 35 playable ones, at least that's what we think, and it's going to be 31.8% of them. 1 out of every 3 is not bad. One of my favorites is Gaius Van Belsar, maybe if I said that wrong. He's basically a 4-mana guy that acts as an edict, and I think he is awesome even in the 99.
And he lets you choose what you want everybody to sacrifice. And enchantment, we don't see a lot of that on playable Magic cards, so that's super sweet. Grahatia is a mono-white aristocrat's death payoff that also supports artifacts, so that's a widely playable card. Realm Sketching, what an uncommon. This is a clone. This is a clone that also could be like a weird ramp spell if you really want to just copy the best land in play. Maybe it's a Field of the Dead, maybe it's a Gaia's Cradle. That's the ceiling. The floor is just, this is always the best permanent in play, and that is pretty awesome. This is one of the best blue uncommons I've ever seen.
I love clones, so that's really fun. There's also Fire Magic. I love these like tiered spells. Being able to pay just 1 mana for the base level or just pay a little extra, the modality of that is amazing.
Yeah, if your deck doesn't have a bunch of X1s in it, you can, I think this is a reasonable play to just go, hey, blowing up all your Elvish Mystics, blowing up all your Mana Dorks. And we would be remiss if we didn't mention Moxfield.com, the sponsor of this video. We talked about it earlier and you still didn't see it coming. I'm sorry. I guess you have to subscribe now. But Moxfield is a great way to build decks if you want to catalog your collection, what you opened in a booster box that you bought. You can log it all pretty easily on Moxfield, then sort, tag, customize, move them into decks. Know, you know, when you're out on the town, what cards you have on you, because you need that information.
I love the considering part of Moxfield.
Yeah.
You can actually just add in a card and say, I'll think about this later. Maybe I'll add it in and put it in its separate board so you don't have to muddle it with the rest of your deck that you have in paper.
But back to actual cards, Reach the Horizon is a solid ramp spell. Happy to have this in the uncommon slot. It just goes and finds 2 lands or towns.
Ignis is also a great legend that you can have, not just as your commander, but he actually ramps you too, and he's a little bit of graveyard hate. He's in Simic, but I'm not mad at that because I want to get lands.
Yeah, this is just like an Elvish Rejuvenator with upside, so I'm super happy about that. Speaking of cards with upside, Walking Atlas got improved.
Yeah, Poo-Poo UFO? Poo-Poo UFO.
Da Poo-Poo?
Da Poo-Poo with the PP Prismatic Piper, of course. But Poo-Poo UFO will let you tap to put lands out, and he has extra abilities too.
Yeah, if you got towns in your deck, which I guess you might, because we mentioned the common tapped dual lands of towns that are pretty easy to just play in your deck, they're totally fine. And if you have any upside like the Poo-Poo UFO, makes a lot of sense. Ring of the Lucy, this is like a Golem's Eye, Sisay's Ring, very standard rate. You know, like the Hedron Archive, where it's 4 mana and it makes 2. And it's got an ability that you will use some of the time. It might be good to have on hand. Wouldn't fault anyone for playing this. If I saw this in the wild, I would go, yep, that's a mana rock. And I think it's great to have out of the set. It's a great option to have.
There's also the Golden Saucer. What does that do?
This is a weird one. You flip coins to maybe make treasures, but it also sacrifices artifacts to get you cards. And this is all in an untapped land slot. So super happy to play that. That's one of my favorite uncommons in the set. And Eden is this one that lets you like pay a bunch of mana, mill some cards, get something back. Great functionality in the late game, again, on an untapped land. But now we move into the rares. So a lot of sets, there is a lot of pressure on the rare to be good. This set, I will say, has really good commons and uncommons, and we're not trying to min-max our value. We spent 180, so I have to somehow sell these cards for 185, or I'm bad at this. No, we're going to have fun with it. We don't care about value. We care about, are these rares playable in Commander? We have 40 out of 84, which is a 47.6% conversion on usefulness. We'll talk a little bit more about that in context in a couple minutes, but we'll just get to some of our favorite rares. Moogle's Valor is kind of sweet. It makes a bunch of Moogles, and then it gives all your things indestructible.
Luswa's Sacrifice was our preview card, and it's very good in those row rack decks and anything that will actually have your commander out. Can we say Yuriko, for instance?
Anything with cheap expendable legends, and I will say Final Fantasy is full of cheap expendable legends. Shoutouts Ignis, shoutouts all those. There's like 92 legends in this set.
There's also the Darkness Crystal. This is going to reduce your black spells by 1. It's also going to help you reanimate stuff if you have nothing better to do with that mana.
Yeah, Fire Crystal, kind of the same deal, but it reduces red spells and it gives yourself haste, which is super relevant. Realm Reborn, I don't even know. I think this card's great because if you have any sort of tokens or creatures laying around, it generates a ton of mana. Even though it does cost 6 up front, as long as you have 6 things that wouldn't normally make mana that can now make mana, it's kind of free, and it lets you really ramp up. Genova gotta be one of my favorite legends in here. It's very applicable, it's very playable in the 99 because it cares about +1 counters, and there's a lot of decks that would happily slot in Genova.
I think you're going to be drawing a bunch of cards off Genova. Also, the Regalia, it's going to do a sad robot-esque impression. You're just going to be hitting with it. You're going to crew it super easily and getting lands out of it too.
Oh my god, I love it. And there's also 8 towns, 5 of which are adventure towns, very widely playable. Those are going to be amazing to open because if you open any of those in any of your booster packs, you can easily play it in a commander deck.
But there are a fair amount of mythics in here, 22 to be exact, and out of 22, there are 18 that are playable, which is a rate of 81%. One of the standout ones is going to be Cloud. It is so awesome to tutor an equipment and then also get double triggers off of them when they're equipped to him.
Yeah, finding your best stuff.
We talked about Skull Clamp being equipped to him and just being sort of like card draw spell, but anything else like the swords and stuff are going to be awesome.
Super good. Sephiroth is like the guy of the set. Great Blood Artist effect, great Aristocrats. Kind of, you can just throw it in any deck and it'll be good, honestly. Traveling Chocobo,
Ooh.
That's like the #1 landfall card in here. It sort of ties together this loose bird theme of the Chocobo tokens, but it's good on itself. You can just play it in any deck, really.
No, the landfall on it is so exciting.
It's nice.
I need one so badly.
What do you need it for?
I need it. I want to maybe, if I make Uro anything bigger, it's going to be in there. If that goes cheap enough, I want it.
Gotta have it on the side. And lastly, Buster Sword is another one of our favorites because it just creates this crazy scenario. You make a creature unblockable or you equip it on a flyer. You hit for a bunch. It's got this crazy trigger that I am super excited to start playing with once I get my hands on one.
But we couldn't forget about the bonus sheet, could we? This is called Final Fantasy Through the Ages, which has all this special new artwork. Every Final Fantasy Through the Ages card is found in 1 out of every 3 play boosters, and there's uncommons, rares, and mythics. Uncommons have 63% hit rate, rares have 29% hit rate, and mythic at 7% hit rate. There are so many awesome cards in here, and I'd say 54 out of 64 of them, which is 84% if you're keeping track, are very playable in the 99. But I'm not saying that 10 of them are not playable. I'm just saying they're not playable in the 99.
Yeah, 10 of them, not all 10, but I think like at least half of the 10 that we excluded from this are like 5-color commanders. There's like Kenrith, I think Najeela's in here, maybe Joda too, the Unifier. Those are like never cards you're going to be able to play in the 99, but they're cards that you could trade, I don't know, sell, swap
Make a
for
deck
something,
for,
build a whole different deck for it. That's fine. They're not useless to you. They're just not great for like putting in the 99 of a deck. So great hit rate on the bonus sheet. Some bonus sheets are like a little meh, they're not all full of cards you can use. I know that like Thunder Junction's bonus sheet was maybe a little bit less crazy because some of the uncommons were like, I don't know, this rule spell doesn't really work in Commander.
I mean, this is so juicy. This is the first time we're actually seeing a Timna reprint, an Ancient Copper Dragon reprint, and then we're also seeing like Rhystic Study and stuff with all this cool art. I'm very excited for this bonus sheet.
It's got the chance for some like real heaters. And now there's one more thing to note before we do a recap of our stats and start comparing it to other sets to find out if this is actually worth buying. There are 97 potential commanders in this set. If you open a booster box of Final Fantasy with the intent to just build a commander deck out of mostly or entirely that box, you will have no trouble finding a commander. Part of the value of the box to you will depend on this commanders, but we will get to that. I want to first recap what we have learned so far. We have commons 31.1%, uncommons 31.8%, rares 47.6%, mythics 81%, and a bonus sheet 84%. So we're going to take all that information and now compare it to other recent standard sets that we've plugged all this information for in also, so you can get a better idea of how this stacks up against some of the recent sets.
The first one is going to be Outlaws of Thunder Junction, one of my personal favorites that has come out in the last few years. A play booster is $140, so Final Fantasy is going to be $40 more per box. The common rate is 19.7. There are a fair amount of good commons in here, but that is way lower than the Final Fantasy rate of like 30-ish%.
Yeah, there's like the Desert Lands, a couple like Snakeskin Veil, just kind of like begrudgingly okay stuff. Uncommons were 29%. That's like Getaway Glamour, Hollow Marauder is a pretty sweet one. Rares, this is where we're going to see a little bit of difference. Outlaws of Thunder Junction, 71% of the rares. I'm not going to say a million percentages. We have both up for you to see the comparison, but that is a huge jump. Mythics and Big Score, 91%.
They were so juicy. So many things in Big Score, first time printings, they are so playable. And then there's also Terror of the Peaks and Bristly Bill and Final Showdown. Those are some awesome cards that I love to be putting in a bunch of decks.
Yeah, and we don't have the bonus sheet information. That this 91% is not the bonus sheet that I was talking about earlier. The bonus sheet was like Anguish on Making and like Skew the Critics, that kind of thing. We didn't grade that, but we're going to move to Bloomborough. Again, play booster 140. Bloomborough had some problems. Commons for Bloomborough, 13.5%. Really all you could find was like Cash Grab, run away together, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's also uncommons, 23%. There's like Hop to It to make tokens, Procession Mage, Consumed by Greed. These are fine, not bad. I'm not mad to play them. There's also rares, 65.7%.
Again, higher.
Which is way higher than Final Fantasy, unfortunately. This has Innkeeper's Talent, Caretaker's Talent. The talents were so good this set. Fabled Passage, Three Tree City. Can we say that is perfect for those Kindred decks?
Mythic rares, though, Bloomborough made up for their rares a little bit. I mean, Mythic rares are less likely to be hit, but they were 100%. Every Mythic rare in that set was somewhat usable in the 99. Special Guests, they had 70%. That was only 10 cards, so it was 7 out of 10 hit. Lastly, Duskmourn, we have a play booster. Once again, 140. I like that they're all the same. It does help us compare a little more. Commons, they had 21%, stuff like Clockwork Percussionist. Uncommons, we're looking at 24%, like a Withering Torment. That card sees a lot of play. Rares, 60%. So a little closer, but still higher, like Enduring, the Glimmers and stuff, the Twitching Doll. Mythic rares, they were at 95%, which is kind of where I'm sort of seeing that Mythic rares should settle at the Overlords.
And the bonus sheet, 90% hit rate. Damnation, pretty good. And a bunch of other stuff too.
So we're seeing the comparison of all of these rates versus the Final Fantasy one, and that brings us to our verdict here. Should you buy a play booster box of Final Fantasy? And our answer right now is no. And that's based on a couple factors. And I have to preface that because if you value legendary creatures highly, that changes the playability of this box, and then that might move your answer to yes. I think if you love Legends, that does move the needle to a yes. If you love Final Fantasy and you really want to own these cards and that will bring you some extra joy, I would say yes, it would be worth it, but barely, you know?
Yeah, this is a higher price point. As we mentioned earlier, it is $40 extra per box versus a normal standard set. There's a better hit rate for commons and uncommons, but the rare hit rate is so much worse than all of these other sets, and usually those are the cards that I'm most excited to get.
And that's because of all of these niche legendary creatures that might be for some weirdo deck out there that you probably don't want to build, or something that's like, oh, this is copying equipment. I don't have the cards for that. Like, cards that just aren't being used. And that's where it comes in. If you value all these legendary creatures, that moves it. But that's why there's this giant hole in the rare slot for like playable cards in the 99. It does have a good bonus sheet, but it's only appearing in 33% of boosters. So it's not going to be like every single pack has one.
And the majority of the time you're going to be getting something closer to Stroke of Midnight than you're going to be getting Ancient Copper Dragon. You know, very big hit rate difference.
Yeah, and then you can see money is a factor in terms of comparing like what you initially spend versus what percentages you get out. But we're not saying like, oh, I'm going to make more money on a Thunder Junction box. But if I can get better hit rates on playability, if I open Duskmourn, Bloomborough, or Thunder Junction, that's going to, and I'm not a big Final Fantasy fan, then I would just say, hey, go get those boxes. You're going to be happier with how many cards actually make it into your collection. So ultimately, the rares are going to decide this for you. Obviously, if you're a huge Final Fantasy fan, that's a big bonus, plus 10 points for this. But if you want to see more Final Fantasy, Mia, we have a Final Fantasy video just for them, don't we?
Yes, we do. It ranks every single commander in Final Fantasy.
It's a doozy.